Every day, our world becomes more digital and more globalized. Yet as we connect more than ever virtually, person-to-person interaction suffers. We are in some ways together alone. As humans, we are thirsty for meaningful interactions with one another. The heart of GCI is the opportunity to develop meaningful connections with one another and a sense of belonging to a welcoming global community where we embrace and respect each other. The Summit experience brings together people from all walks of life and all sectors of society to become lifelong agents of positive change. This multidimensional experience of academic, social connections, and self-reflection is truly transformative for many fellows. At the Summit, we encourage deeper connections outside of the classroom through activities including Cohabitation, where fellows live with roommates and dine together, self-reflection journals to encourage introspective thought, an outward-bound team-building and bonding experience, and with inspirational speakers whose broad life experiences provide invaluable wisdom. In this final section of the video, Yumi Kuwana and GCI ambassadors Matt and Michelle sit down to discuss the unique impact of having international and multilingual students in the classroom and the extra dimension it adds. They also talk about life beyond the summit, including the GCI mentorship and ambassadorship. This third aspect of the GCI methodology, human connectivity, is crucial to developing a true global citizen because it creates bonds that transcend boundaries and last a lifetime.
So good afternoon, Matt and Michelle. It's so good to have you here today as our proud ambassadors. So let's just try to go back in time and see and just remember those days where you first arrived. And so please add some color about your residential experience with your cohort.
So the Irving House, where the GCI Summit takes place, was kind of like essentially the hub for me of connection between all the fellows. And I think it's very hard for cross-cultural competency to not develop, in my opinion, because it's a lot different communicating with different people from all over the world over the internet versus when you're actually living with them for 9 days. And so, especially between roommates, because if you're with someone from the other side of the world who has a completely different culture, then you're obviously going to have different living styles. So learning to make compromises and collaborate with your roommate on something as simple as living style is very important and something that I think a lot of world leaders can learn from.
Michelle, can you shed light maybe to some of your residential experience?
I enjoyed staying at Irving House very much, and I felt like it was such an important experience for bonding with everyone. And having so many different cultures living together felt so important to really have these cultures in one place working together. And it was something I definitely loved. And my roommates, I'm actually still in contact with, and I'm still very close friends with them.
And maybe share with me initially how you felt when you walked into the Irving House versus when you walked out.
I think definitely radically different experiences. So for me, going in knowing that I was going to be living with people that I didn't really know at all from a bunch of different, all walks of life, was something that I had to sort of not really come to terms with, but sort of like understand. And so walking into the Irving House, obviously there was some nerves that went along with that. But just seeing people and like shaking their hands and getting to know them a little bit with the icebreakers, really very quickly knowing how all these people are incredibly nice and they want to be there as well, really ingrained me within the culture of GCI. And by the time 9 days ended and I'm walking out of the Irving House, I didn't want to leave. Just like as Michelle said, I really didn't want to leave, and hugging everyone goodbye, writing gratitude cards, staying up late that night. So it's amazing what can happen in 9 days with people that don't know each other from all over the world. It's pretty cool, actually.
So now part of it before we start the academic rigor is going to outdoor into nature and really working together for team building.
I felt like it was a really important introduction to the program because teamwork is about overcoming obstacles together and using each individual's contributions, and really putting that into our bodies on the first day was so important for keeping up that energy throughout the summit. Even though we weren't physically overcoming obstacles, we were still discussing issues and working together to build these projects. And so on the first day, overcoming that giant ladder together was such a great experience. And even though I was this small girl with 3 taller guys, and even then I still was a part of that team, and I felt like I belonged there. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
If you think about what happens later on the summit, fellows working together to solve sort of big global issues in their own local communities, you really need to have an introduction before that in order to develop bonds between one another, even if those are smaller. And so I think that's where the team building exercises outside really come in handy, because doing that allows you to develop trust, and with that trust you can be more comfortable sharing ideas, whether it be in the discussions that we have or developing solutions that you want to implement in your local community.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point, especially during the academic sessions. The more vulnerable we allow ourselves, the more learning
The more we
takes
can
place.
get out of it.
Yeah, so I think that we really value that experience of being outdoors and leadership and team building.
Definitely. And then by the end of it, while we were getting into some of the more complicated tasks, as I would say, we sort of understood that this was meant to teach us to work together and listen to each other and be open-minded. And I think that the lessons that we learned from team building really echoed and carried out throughout the rest of the week and all the other activities that we did during the rest of the summit.
Yeah, I've definitely learned to pay attention to other people's needs, not only mine or the entire team's, but the fact that there are individuals within a team and paying attention to each of them as well as focusing on our initial goal is another important thing that I learned.
And I think it carries out throughout life as well.
Absolutely. No, that's such a good point. And throughout the program, we really emphasize the 3 E's of excellence, ethics, and engagement, plus leadership. Can you recall sort of the themes and personally the impact it's had on you?
So for me, I think the coolest part about the themes was how that the entire day sort of took one theme and it really carried over through the entire day. All of the activities that we did revolved around one theme. So the one that I think that was most important and most powerful for me was ethics. And so I think what was cool, at least with the Harkness discussions, is how we discussed ethics in a bunch of different contexts. For example, ethics is really widely known as something revolving around technology, and we discussed how new technological innovations are very cool and very powerful tools, but also go along with ethical dilemmas. And one of the things we went over was military drones and new age technology in the military and how that can present an ethical dilemma. So I think that just having a theme throughout the day and sort of emphasizing it and not sort of teaching the theme directly, but having the material cover one theme and having it not just be science and technology, but also literature, poetry. I think it really makes for an all-encompassing day, and it gives you a bunch of different perspectives on the theme of ethics, engagement, and excellence.
At my school, I'd never really experienced topics like these before, and it was so unique and refreshing to go over topics about leadership in this way, and discussing it with others who've had completely different experiences was so wonderful. And I really found that our discussion tables with so many different ideas coming to the table really changed the definition of how I saw these words. For example, when it came to the day of excellence, before I thought of excellence as a state of being better than others, but when I learned at our discussion tables, excellence is a lot more about constant progress and being in the state of improving and overcoming limitations. And I feel that engagement is really what makes these projects and ideas work. Mm-hmm. Just like how when we have design thinking, it's about how we find projects that are tailored to the audience, which is engaging with the audience. And engagement is incredibly important, and you're creating a healthy relationship between the change maker and those who benefit from it.
And if I can add on to that, I think being an ambassador now, I can really fully see why GCI chose engagement, ethics, and excellence as some of these building blocks for the summit. And that's because to be a global citizen, it requires you to be excellent, it requires you to be engaged, and it requires you to be very ethical.
Absolutely. That's what we strive for. As you can see in this world and day and age where we're really have some challenges in terms of ethical leadership, we hope that you carry the core ethics, having a moral compass as you make your contributions in the world as an ethical global leader. GCI really focuses on the 5 C's and developing and nurturing the 5 C's as a global citizen. And those include character, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. How have you felt that your 5 C's were developed throughout the program?
So what I really liked about the way the 5 C's were taught is the way that they were weaved in sort of indirectly over the course of the summit. So it wasn't like we were being taught directly how to be a good critical thinker or how to be a good collaborator. It was the activities we were doing. Those are what taught us sort of critical thinking and collaboration. And then the next aspect that I think is really cool about it is how it does, like sometimes with those activities and it being taught indirectly, it can kind of slip past you how you're learning critical thinking and collaboration. So each morning we do reflections on how the day before taught us collaboration and critical thinking or the rest of the 5 C's. And having those reflections is a good chance for the fellows to reflect and see how they learned and how they developed their own 5 C's over the course of the day and then at the end over the course of the summit.
And I really feel that having these 5 C's embedded into the summit was reinforcing the underlying principles of the GCI method and adding these specific values to it. And I felt like centering in on these things really brings out a stronger leader and a stronger community.
Absolutely. Those are really the skills that you need as a global leader. So our program is really carefully curated. So in the morning you have reflections, afternoon are discussion-based learning, projects that take place in the afternoon, time to really have one-to-one time with your peers as well as teachers and the whole human connectivity. And the evening is all about inspirational speakers and how they can inspire you. Many of them are thought leaders in their industry, and we try to get different industries to add a lot of richness to the whole experience. Can you share with me your personal experience of perhaps an inspirational speaker that you enjoyed and some of your thoughts?
I think definitely hearing the motivation and stories from others who've accomplished so much adds so much more value and often want to learn something new. For example, with Jack Meyer's discussion, he really brought into the perspective of looking for a root cause before jumping to solve all the small issues, when all of these issues could actually be connected to one specific root cause which would solve many more problems.
Absolutely, that's a great way of looking at it. Throughout the academic session, we use the discussion-based pedagogy. And how do you see this related to human connectivity?
Discussion-based learning was interesting to me because it's everyone listening to each other and everyone has a voice at that table, instead of how in some classrooms you'll all be listening to one voice. And I feel like that really does help us connect with each other and hear more about each other's perspectives.
Absolutely. I think that another way of looking at it is the chemical reaction that happens with the 14 individuals is very powerful. And also the way Linda Hill describes it as that we all have a slice of genius and collectively together we become a collective genius. So it becomes more powerful.
And similarly, when it comes to connecting with others by hearing and listening to their voices, it reminded me of design thinking. Because when it comes to design thinking, the first question is, how might we? And it helps a community. So we're really listening to the voices of our communities in order to help them. And I felt like that was engaging and really carried out.
And to add on to that, I think with design thinking, the solution that you're trying to develop is tailored to your audience rather than being more about the designer itself. And so that's what the value of design thinking comes, because ultimately you want to solve the problem for the victim of the problem, for those suffering from the problem. So hearing from them first, empathizing with your audience before you go on and try to solve the problem is the most important part of any problem-solving process.
Absolutely. I think empathy, as you said, is so critical, and that's all about human connectivity, isn't it? Yeah. As you know, design thinking is a human-centric problem-solving mechanism that assists us in figuring out the sustainable development goals that you focus on. So we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and figure out a cause that really resonates with you, and you hone in on that issue and really think globally but act locally to solve this. It would be wonderful to learn about your specific local service project and how human connectivity has assisted in you achieving or helping to solve that problem.
with my personal project, I chose to focus on the problem of climate change. And so what I really found in my community is that there was a lack of awareness because we are all short-term thinkers and we weren't really thinking about long-term issues. And in my opinion, I had felt that climate change was the greatest threat to international security in the long term. And so and I thought the first step to sort of developing innovative solutions to it is to raise awareness and bring it to the front of people's minds. And so I developed a club and a group that was devoted to raising awareness for climate change in a bunch of different methods, which included presentations, running events for different holidays around the environment, as well as conducting polls about different environmental aspects of the King community.
Great.
And I feel like the Sustainable Development Goals are a great guideline for fellows to find where there are problems and where problems can be solved. For example, with mine tackling quality education, my project addressed how creative education isn't very emphasized in my community. And so to address that, we created an event that would celebrate the creative minds in my community. And now it's an annual event at my school, which is really great to see.
That's right. What is your event called?
So my school's name is Hobby School, and we've called it Hobbies Got Talent, in which anyone from the school can participate, whether it's teachers, students, staff, or anyone really.
What a powerful project. That's great. So in order to become a better leader, part of one element that's really important is to self-reflection, to get to know oneself. Once you have the ability to get to know oneself, then you get to know others better. So we have a woven-in program in the morning before classes start of self-reflection, journal writing, and so forth. How did you find that exercise?
In general, reflection is important, and to look back and to see what you've learned and observed is so important. And I feel like it helps the most resonant lessons really stick with you once you've put it in your own words and perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think when solving any problem, you always need to set aside time to reflect whether you failed or whether you've been successful. Understanding why things happened, why you were successful or why you failed is very important to your development as a leader and your development as a person.
Absolutely. I think everybody really needs that space and time to digest what happened or what you want to do, because the world is so interconnected and digitized that we rarely have time to even breathe. So having the space to self-reflect and digest what just happened or what is about to happen, I think just makes you a better person, makes you a better leader, and makes you a better critical thinker. Before the summit, you are connected to a professional person who becomes your mentor. And then after the summit, you work together and they help guide you in terms of implementing your projects. How was your personal experience regarding mentorship?
So my mentor was a very valuable resource for me as I went about my fellowship during the 9 months, and he frequently gave me advice on how to go about the next step of my project, and if I was ever stuck, I would reach out, and he would give me advice on next steps to take. And beyond just the local service project, my mentor has been really a good person to just reach out to for advice in any aspect of life, whether it be college or whether it be the future and what job I want to go into and what field I want to go into. And it's very convenient because he is in a field that I'm very interested in. And so reaching out to him, given that we have common interests, it has allowed us to connect even more and allowed him to be even more valuable to me.
And I feel that some students may forget that they can reach out to help and they can seek out a team if they need to. And so giving them a mentor to reach out to from the beginning really teaches them that if they need help, they can find it.
That's an important message. And actually, because all of you, the 28 that arrived to the Irving House, are high-achieving, well-accomplished leaders, one thing that I've noticed is the ability to ask for help. They're not used to asking for help. So I think that having a mentor or learning how to ask for help, I think, is also an important lesson.
It's a key skill.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So what does it mean to be a GCI ambassador?
Being a GCI ambassador means being a part of this lifelong community where you can always reach out to for support. And it's really just a giant group of leaders for positive change. And that feels like such an important and big role to take on. And there's a lot of responsibility, but there's also a lot of support with it.
For me personally, after going through the GCI Summit and as well as a fellowship and becoming a newly minted ambassador, I've really truly begun to get behind 100% the GCI method. And with that, I've undergone a process to integrate the GCI method within my school and sort of create the butterfly effect and being an agent for change, not just among GCI, but in my local community as well. And I hope that more people from my school can continue to attend the GCI Summit, as well as teachers attending the PD seminar and taking what they learned back to my community and spreading the wealth of knowledge and creating more global citizens.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point, Matt, that we have the fellowship, we have the professional development program, and the multiplier effect that happens from that is very powerful. But also our desire is to spread the GCI curriculum to many schools and many institutions so that we can share and collaborate.
And just to add on, before the GCI Summit, I really felt like global citizenship was this sort of utopian society that we couldn't really ever reach, but could sort of approach asymptotically, because being a global citizen is just about being a citizen of the world and sort of abandoning your preconceived notions about others. And then after the GCI Summit, I truly believe that we can become a global citizenship, and the way to do that is through dialogue, it's through communication and collaboration, and that's very valuable. What the GCI Summit taught me about global citizenship is very valuable, and it's something that I'll continually take back with me to my community.
Which really brings it back to human connectivity, because I feel that being a global citizen and being globally minded is embracing diversity. And I feel that is important to do in order to eradicate the boundaries that are created by the fear of diversity. And once we can get through that, we really can create stronger connections and more positive change.
Absolutely, and I think better understanding on the human-to-human level is really critical. For example, now that you know a friend from Afghanistan, you're not going to think Afghanistan Taliban, you're going to think Afghanistan Aziza. If you think about Mongolia, you won't think about pollution, you'll think about Mongolia, Michelle, my friend. So I think that's really important to have that human-to-human interaction and actually have a friend there. I wanted to thank you both for being here today. I think it's really important that we have this conversation about global citizenry and your personal experience, and really it's been meaningful for you to share and shed light to us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yumi.
Thank you.
After the summit concludes, fellows are empowered to bring their learnings back to their local communities and engage with peers to launch their social endeavors. Mentors are accessible to provide guidance and support beyond the Global Service Project itself. GCI connects ambassadors to opportunities for seed funding, internships, and enriching educational programs through its ever-growing network of collaborative partners. The community also stays connected, engaged through GoGCI, a customized online platform. After fellows' Global Service projects conclude, they will forever be ambassadors and members of GCI's growing ecosystem of global citizens and leaders. We continue to have small and large reunions all over the world as our GCI family continues to expand. We hope you found this video enlightening. If you're interested in learning more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.